1959, tens of thousands of Tibetans trekked across the mighty Himalayas, emerging from centuries of isolation into a world completely new to them. Among the thousands fleeing their homeland was 49-year-old Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, one of the greatest Tibetan lamas of the last century. After traveling on foot for many months, Rinpoche and his entourage reached Bhutan, the last of the Himalayan Buddhist kingdoms. Like the other Tibetans fleeing at that time, Rinpoche had lost everything.
The Khyentse Rinpoche, one of my important guru, and since now quite some time, I received many teachings, many important teachings, especially the teaching of the realization or the experience of Rigpa. And since my first meeting with him, I got very good impression. Then through my some mysterious experience, including the dream, there are some clear indication that there's some, I think, special karmic relation with him, it seems there. So now, today, I feel very, very grateful to him and very, very helpful.
Khyentse Rinpoche was born in the Dilgo family in the year 1910 in the valley of Denkok, eastern Tibet. His father, the governor of the Derge district, was overjoyed. His two other sons had joined the monastery, but now he had an heir to continue his work. In a hermitage behind the Dilgo estate lived Mipam Rinpoche, one of the most influential and revered scholars of the time. He gave the baby the name Tashi Paljor, auspicious glory, and promised throughout all his future lives to take care of him. Many Buddhist masters advised that Tashi Paljor should enter the spiritual path. "I'm not going to let him become a monk," his father insisted, who would manage the family's estate and lands. One day, while playing with his brother, Tashi Paljor fell into a pot of boiling soup. His lower body was badly burnt, and he was bedridden for many months. Without any real signs of improvement, the parents lost hope for their son's life. Helplessly, the father asked his son, "What should we do?" Well, it would help If I could wear a monk's robe, the son replied. With a heavy heart, the father agreed. Tashi Paljor's entrance into the monastic life meant the end of the Dilgo family line. But the boy's health improved, and he was happy. The young boy received his novice ordination from Khenpo Shenga, a well-known Buddhist teacher from eastern Tibet. During the ceremony, he was given the monastic name Robsel Dawa, Brilliant Moon. Known for his ability to comprehend even the most complex Buddhist philosophies, upon returning from his studies for a brief winter break, the 9-year-old taught his mother the text, The Way of the Bodhisattva. At 14, the boy traveled to the great monastery of Shechen, where Shechen Gyaltsab, a well-known meditation master, bestowed on him the highest of all the Buddhist teachings, the introduction to the true nature of his mind. He later wrote,
"It transformed my perception. It made me wish to give up all mundane concerns of this life and stay in solitude like my precious master to realize the great perfection."
Over the next few years, the Dilgo son stayed in a cabin next to his teacher's hermitage. It was here that the young boy was officially recognized as the reincarnation of the great 19th century Buddhist master, Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche. From that day onwards, the young Dilgo son was known as Khyentse Rinpoche, the precious emanation of Khyentse. In 1926, while traveling in eastern Tibet, Khyentse Rinpoche received a letter from his father, notifying him that Shechen Gyaltsab had passed away. Feeling as if his heart had been torn from his chest, the 18-year-old wrote,
"Alas, qualified master, though I followed you, the Buddha, in person, I haven't come to a true understanding about the instructions. How can you leave me behind like an abandoned orphan?"
Losing his beloved teacher deepened Khyentse Rinpoche's understanding of the impermanent nature of all things. He wrote to his parents,
"You gave me birth with all the freedoms and advantages of human life, and you have cared for me with love from my infancy till now. Since you introduced me to an authentic teacher, it is thanks to your kindness that I have encountered the path of liberation."
For the next 13 years, Khyentse Rinpoche isolated himself in the caves of eastern Tibet. The only visitor he saw was his older brother, who would occasionally visit with provisions. A cuckoo near his cave served as his alarm clock. As soon as he heard it, around 3 in the morning, he would get up and start a session of meditation.
After hearing, thinking about, and meditating on the life of my perfect teacher, I have resolved to slip quietly away from all this life's concerns and head for the wilderness of overhanging cliffs alone.
Winters in Tibet were harsh, with snow accompanied by icy wind. However, day and night, he wore only a thin white cloth. Through his practice of Tummo, he and his cave would remain warm, with the snow at its mouth melting slowly.
Although for now your sun will hide away in mountain glens, your smiling faces will be with me always. And if I reach the citadel of experience and realization, I shall repay your kindness. Of that you can be sure.
The next many years were spent with Khyentse Chokyi Lodro, a non-sectarian master from the Zongsar Valley. Though Khyentse Rinpoche had always desired to be a monk, at Chokyi Lodro's suggestion, in 1934, he took Khandro Lamo, a local villager's daughter, as his life companion. Over the next few years, Khandro Lamo gave birth to 2 daughters, Chime and Dechen.
I was very young, and Rinpoche always goes for retreat. And we can see only once or twice in a month, not more than that. That I remember. Then he used to send us to collect some flowers, and he offered mandala. And then his whole day he stays in the cave, so we are not allowed to see him. Sometimes we reach your food outside the cave and then go back. He hardly comes home. He always in the retreat. When I was very young, I never knew he is my father. We thought it's my guru, and I never knew he's my father.
All of Khyentse Rinpoche's teachers had advised him that after properly engaging in study, contemplation, and meditation, he should then uphold, preserve, and expound the doctrine to the faithful. Despite Khyentse Rinpoche's profound wish to spend his life in secluded retreat, he honored the advice of his teachers. He traveled widely across eastern and central Tibet, teaching as well as receiving teachings from various traditions. At Khyentse Chokyi Lodro's behest, Khyentse Rinpoche traveled to Rekhong in northeast Tibet. There, he taught the great treasury of precious revealed teachings to nearly 2,000 yogis. It was the start of Khyentse Rinpoche's selfless dedication in making the Dharma available to those who are interested. This commitment lasted until the end of his life. At the invitation of one of Tibet's great spiritual leaders, the 16th Karmapa, Khyentse Rinpoche journeyed to Serphu in central Tibet, where he gave empowerments and teachings. While there, news arrived of the Chinese Red Army's occupation of Tibet's capital, Lhasa.
Everyone who had come to Lhasa was being arrested. Some were forced to leave their children behind. Some jumped in the water to escape or take their lives. But most were tied up and put in trucks.
By 1959, a national uprising against the occupying forces would result in the deaths of thousands of Tibetans. Khyentse Rinpoche realized that his commitment to teach the Dharma was no longer possible in his homeland. Leaving everything behind, including his precious books and most of his own writings, Khyentse Rinpoche and his family fled Tibet. Traveling southwards, the group could not even make a fire for their food out of fear of being caught. They hid during the day and resumed their escape at night, with a lone moon to illuminate their journey into the unknown. After traveling for many months, Khyentse Rinpoche and his family arrived as refugees in the nearby kingdom of Bhutan. In a foreign land, with nowhere to go and no one to ask for help, they made their shelter under a tree.
Of course, the eventual fall of Tibet in 1959 was a devastating loss. But with Khyentse Rinpoche alive, we did not lose everything, because in this one man, all of Tibet's Buddhist heritage was actually embodied. What was extraordinary was that he took on his glorious manifestation at the very point when Tibetan teachings were arriving in the West and spreading throughout the world.
Only a few months into his arrival in Bhutan, devastating news reached Khyentse Rinpoche. His beloved teacher, Khyentse Choki Lodro, had passed away in the neighboring monarchy of Sikkim. Khyentse Rinpoche immediately left for the funeral ceremony and carried out most of the duties involved with enshrining the remains of his teacher. A memorial stupa was built on the spot where the cremation took place. Kunchak Lodro, an old student of Khyentse Rinpoche, recalls those days.
He was a very kind-hearted person, very gentle, and he never got angry. It is rare to find someone like him these days. No matter what people said to him, whether it was good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, he always reacted in the same way. He would just say, "I see, I see." During the break from his teachings or empowerments, Rinpoche would always sit here and pray. I would also come here and sit next to him.
In 1962, Khyentse Rinpoche's younger daughter, who was studying in India at the time, fell ill. He quickly traveled to be by her side. However, after spending only a few minutes with her, she passed away. Though unfamiliar with the local language and lacking resources, Khyentse Rinpoche carried her body to the bank of the Yamuna River. He spent the whole night gathering wood and preparing the funeral pyre. In the early dawn, Khyentse Rinpoche cremated her himself. Having lost his daughter, his teachers, and his homeland, he wrote,
"A beautiful country is like a dream, like illusion. It is senseless to cling to it. Unless the inner forces of negative emotions are conquered, strife with outer enemies will never end."
In Bhutan, the Queen invited Khyentse Rinpoche to teach at Simtoka Dzong, a centuries-old fortress that contained a school. During the day, he would teach grammar and handwriting. During the evenings and weekends, he would give dharma teachings to anyone who requested them.